Okay, we're back at you with another nugget. In the last nugget, we spoke about a few reasons that you may want to use visual aids in sales and how that can help people better understand what you're saying to them. We spoke a little bit about how the mind works and why visuals are so important. And in this nugget, we're going to piggyback off of that and talk a little bit about storytelling. If you want to sell more of whatever you're selling, you should work on your stories. Top performers are all great at painting visual pictures for people to be able to see what they're talking about. You see, people have to understand why they would want your product or service or they're not going to purchase it. So like I mentioned before, just puking out endless amounts of information usually doesn't do the trick. That's because words alone are very hard for people to process. Our minds work on visual imagery, not words or statistics. If you can paint a good picture or image, it's much easier for people to process that information and understand what you're saying to them. That's why it said that that's why it said that great salespeople are great storytellers, because their stories create a clear image or picture in the customer's mind, which makes it easy for them to understand. Just like we were talking about in the last nugget, this concept applies to all sales, but we're going to use the F&I department as an example here. So what stories are you telling with your F&I products? You need to have good specific examples and multiple examples that you use for each one of the products that you offer. They need to be your stories as well. So you need to take some time and actually think about this stuff and practice it. Let's take extended warranties, for example. Today, the average vehicle has about 100 million lines of computer code. If I just tell someone that vehicles are very complicated and expensive to repair today because they have 100 million lines of computer code, that doesn't necessarily mean anything to the customer. You need to tell stories to the customer about other experiences that other people have had so that the customer can visualize that experience in their mind. Then they'll really get it. One example I recently heard was from an F&I manager telling a story about an issue someone had with a transmission control module on an F-150 that had 38,000 miles on it. So he was explaining to the customer that this customer that had 38,000 miles on their vehicle, the issue was that it wouldn't shift anymore and everything was locked up because there was some kind of computer module, a transmission control module, that thought the vehicle was in park when it wasn't in park. And then so he couldn't shift it in or out of park and the transmission wouldn't do anything. So he was stuck. There's nothing he can do. And it was a computer programming issue that customer heard this story and they bought it. Now, originally, the customer objected to purchasing the extended warranty. He said he hadn't purchased extended warranties in the past. And the F&I manager simply started off saying, I understand. I hear that from a lot of other customers. Like I mentioned, though, vehicles have become much more complicated and expensive to repair because of all the technology in them. So many people who historically took a chance or didn't buy service contracts have changed their mind. Let me give you an example of what happened to another customer recently. And then the F&I manager went on and told that story about the transmission. And that changed the mind of the current customer and they decided to purchase. So that visual story was very powerful for them because they could put themselves in that position. Just giving a quick presentation on what all a service contract covers and what it costs is not going to have anywhere near the impact that it will telling real life stories with it. There's so many examples of stories that can be used to help your customers see the importance of your products too. Since we're talking about vehicle service contracts, I'll give you a couple ideas on how you can come up with better stories and more stories. If you work with us, every month you get a report showing every claim on warranties you had last month. So you can look at dealership claims and transient claims. Get on that list, call those customers and give them a courtesy call. Just say you noticed that they had a claim and you were wondering how everything went for them, and they can tell you about their experience. If there was an issue, you can help them. Otherwise, you just got another great story in your bank to share with other people. So you can do that every single month, and there's lots of claims. So if you make 10, 20 of those a month, you're going to get a lot of stories. Also, you could meet with your service department weekly and get some good information from them. Take some time to sit down with them, see what they're doing on ROs, because see, when we give you that stuff, it's on warranty pay ROs from the administrator of the service contract company. Service department is dealing with customer pay, internal pay, and warranty pay from the factory as well. So they have a ton of information. You can go get that from them and get more stories. Take some time to come up with great stories of your own on everyday issues that people can see themselves encountering. Like any great storyteller, you should practice telling that story so it gets really good. If they can see it, visualize it, they're a whole lot more likely to understand it, and it'll be a whole lot more likely to want it. So take some time and look at your presentations this week and see where you can do a better job of telling great stories to help people better understand what you're trying to share with them. Have a great day.